First crush, first love, we've all been there, but dating today isn't like what it used to be. With texting, social media, and pop culture, dating is more complex than ever before. Joining us with tips on how we can help our teenagers make good choices now and throughout their life is Bill Corbett, author of Love, Limits, and Lessons. Bill, welcome to Mass Appeal. Nice to have you back. Talking to your teen or your younger child, actually, about dating can be kind of a scary thing for parents.
It is, because you look at what happens out in the world with making sure people are making smart choices. You want your child to invite people into their life who are emotionally balanced, and it worries parents about what can I do now while my kid's little, while they're still listening to me. What can I do?
Right, so it's not just when they start dating that you start talking about it. Try to instill these things into them when they're a young child, so they make right decisions when the time comes. So we're going to share tips today. The first tip is to share experiences from your own life.
Well, it's all about teaching them about intuition. So you want to almost like narrate your life and say, you know what, here's where I started to get this feeling like this is something really fun that I want to do. So I followed my dreams and I went to do it, and it turned out great. And you also want to offer examples where something didn't feel right in a particular situation, and that's all about teaching them to connect themselves with their intuition and to listen to it so it begins to get a lot louder.
So you can use your life experiences and to tell them stories from your life to give examples of how to apply that to themselves.
Right, and how you listen to your inner voice and then followed through.
And your inner voice is right.
That's right.
Trust your gut, right?
Yes.
Getting respectful treatment by others. What do you mean by this?
Well, we actually tell people how to treat us. How we dress, how we talk, how we behave are the three areas that tells people how in turn to treat us. So that's really important for kids to understand how they're behaving on the playground or at playtime or with their friends. That sends the message as to how I expect to be treated. And so when we reinforce that on a regular basis, they begin to realize they have the power to demand how people should treat them.
And you say parents are, of course, those role models too in every single way. So you want to not just teach your child to be respectful, but you want to always be respectful yourself.
And they're watching you and everything that you're doing, so you're setting the guideline on how to treat other people. So it's important to be the role model in front of them about your significant others, your family members, how to treat people, especially in front of them and behind their back. You want to make sure that you're setting them up to understand that. And then also, if you see it out in the world, like for example, you're watching a television show, you watch a cartoon with your child, you see a great snippet of how someone treated someone with respect, or someone laid a boundary down and said, don't talk to me that way. Pause it. That's the time to go, did you see what just happened? And instead of lecturing them, say, what do you think about it? Let them tell you what first came to mind, because they do more learning based on what they think and feel rather than you telling them.
Right, exactly. And when they feel it, they'll understand.
That makes more of an impression on them. It stays with them a lot longer.
And I'm sure it's hard for parents. I'm not at that point yet as a mother, but when your child is in school and they're not just learning from you anymore, they're learning from their peers and influences that way. And so it must be a constant struggle to try to teach the right thing when they may have friends telling them something different.
Well, of course, there's parent power and there's peer power. And it's like two channels. So the object is to make sure that your child always feels comfortable coming to talk to you and to listen to you. And how do you do that? Making sure you're cutting down on your yelling, your punishment, and you want to make them feel comfortable to come to you, because when that peer pressure, that peer power begins to influence them, you want them to always fall back on being influenced more by what you say rather than their friends.
Of course, to steer them in the right direction for lessons later in life.
That's right.
Also, silence. Silence is key. What do you mean by silence in their life?
Well, you know what? Our messages as to who we should spend time with is inside of here. But you're not going to hear it if you constantly have a television going, you have video games constantly going, the radio is always on. And there are some families that don't like that silence. They actually turn stuff on just to have, white noise. But I urge families, teach children to be in silence. So if you do have a home where you have stuff running, declare moments of silence, 30 minutes. Shut everything off and teach them that, right now, we're just not going to talk. We're all going to be quiet for a moment. Moments of silence are so important, and it's important for them because in that moment of silence is when they begin to hear the voice that's speaking to them from inside, our intuition. And of course, spiritual families believe it's God and the universe or whatever, but they've got to have that time to be able to tune in to hear these things and to understand that what I'm thinking, what I'm saying inside is very, very important. more important than what's on the television.
Absolutely. And that, you say that, and it's something that's a lot more difficult, I can imagine, nowadays because of all of the devices and everything at our fingertips. It's so hard to be silent. And I think it's, especially growing up, I know with me, it was, constantly outside. We didn't have all those things at our fingertips. And so do you think taking them away from your child or designating certain times for them to have tablets and phones makes it easier for parents?
Times and zones. Have certain places in the house where these things aren't allowed. Have them sign them in and sign them out, and teach them that all good things in moderation.
You also talk about prayer, meditation. That's another element of silence.
Because we are spiritual beings. That's what makes us different than the other species that run the earth. But we are spiritual, and so whatever you believe in, you got to believe in something. And if you're not happy with your church or what your family's taught, find something and to incorporate that into your family life so they have an internal structure to keep them strong.
Wonderful. And this, you can start even with your child being a little baby, you can
That's
start
right.
instilling this in them. Thanks so much. And hopefully everyone that's watching will take something from this as parents.
Right.
Thank you so much, Bill. Great to have you here. Still